On a warm August afternoon in 2023, in a small Virginia city where neighbors recognize each other by face, not name, time stopped without warning. At first, it sounded like chaos, raised voices, a heated argument spilling out into the open, then something sharper, louder, final. Minutes later, a child lay wounded. A street once filled with ordinary life became the center of a nightmare no one saw coming, and the person responsible was already gone. What happened on Artis Street would haunt Franklin, Virginia for months, not just because of who was lost, but because of who disappeared. It was just after 3 p.m. when police were called to the 300 block of Artis Street. Officers arrived to a confusing scene. 2 victims, 2 locations, both suffering from gunshot wounds. One was a grown man, the other a child. 10-year-old deshawn holden had been carried from one home to another by a relative desperate for help. First responders did everything they could, but later that day, died in the hospital. The adult victim survived. Almost immediately, investigators realized this wasn't random violence. This wasn't a stray bullet. This was personal.
Developing now out of Franklin, a 10-year-old is dead, and now police are searching for the suspect.
So 24-year-old Tashawnda Drayton is accused of killing that young boy and hurting a man as well. The police chief says that the U.S. Marshal is stepping in to help. Casey Baylor joins us live here in Franklin. Casey, what is the latest in this case?
Bethany, Ashley, neighbors in that area call it a relatively quiet street. Now, one neighbor I spoke to earlier this morning says she would see the boy outside often playing with other children and says he looked like a fun-loving child.
Sad. It's really sad.
A shooting in broad daylight has neighbors living on Artis Street rattled.
Cars were all down the street and there was tape. It was disturbing to hear as well as to see.
Franklin police say the shooting happened around 3 Wednesday afternoon.
I was sitting in my front room watching TV and all I heard 4 or 5 shots, bam, 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 bam.
Investigators say a fight broke out after 4 people came to a home on the street. During the fight, detectives say 24-year-old tashawnda Drayton pulled out a gun. They say she started shooting and hit a 10-year-old boy and a 37-year-old man. Police say the boy's relative carried him to another home where first responders found him. Medics took both victims to the hospital with serious injuries. The boy died at the hospital.
This was an innocent child in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he lost his life.
Detectives say the man is out of the hospital.
Our community is shook by this event, and rightfully so.
Franklin Police Chief Steve Patterson says this marks the first homicide of the year. He says help from the community is important in getting answers in this investigation.
One of the big things helped us this case is the community. We've got to keep the community outreach going, community ties going, because without that, we can't solve these cases.
And in a statement from Mayor Robert Cutchins, he says in moments like this, it's important for the community to come together to support and love one another.
Witnesses told police that earlier that afternoon, 4 people had arrived at a residence on Artis Street. There was tension before anyone stepped inside. An argument broke out, fast, loud, emotional. Words escalated, tempers flared, and then someone produced a firearm. Shots rang out. Bullets tore through the calm of the neighborhood, striking both the adult man and the child nearby. And just as quickly as it began, it ended. The shooter fled. No arrest was made that day. No suspect in custody. Just grief and fear that lingered in the air long after police tape went up. Within hours, investigators identified a suspect, a woman. Her name was Tashawnda Nicole Drayton, known to some by another name, 23 Brazy. Police issued alerts, descriptions circulated. She was considered armed and dangerous, but Drayton was nowhere to be found. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and the city of Franklin waited.
Families say they want to see an arrest made after gunshots flew in their community not too long ago, taking the life of a 10-year-old boy. Now, meanwhile, the U.S. Marshal Service is offering a $10,000 reward to help find the woman charged with the death of the 10-year-old.
We would like to see the family get justice. We'd like to see justice for the city of Franklin. We'd like to see the law prevail.
Families like the one you just heard from say justice to them will be an arrest made against 24-year-old Tashawnda Drayton, also known as 23 Brazy. According to police, she's responsible for killing a 10-year-old.
It's sad to see a young man or female or young person, life get taken from them like that at such an early age.
A senseless killing, taking the life of Lamarge Holden, who was only 10 years old. His parents shared this video with News 3, saying he was a sweet kid who just enjoyed having fun. Now, over a month later, Drayton, who police say pulled the trigger, remains on the run. So I spoke with the U.S. Marshal Service, who's handling this investigation.
This is priority number one for us, and we will continue working on this with everything we have until she is in custody.
Drayton has many charges under her belt, one of them being first-degree murder. Officials believe family and friends are hiding her.
The individuals that are involved in trying to help her avoid arrest or prolonging her time as a fugitive are absolutely putting themselves in a position where charges could very well be appropriate.
Have you all extended your search outside of Virginia now?
We've absolutely expanded our search beyond Hampton Roads. The whole country is a possibility. She's got ties, up and down the East Coast.
It would be success if they find the person and bring them to justice, and the family, they can rest their mind. They can find some peace in their heart,
Spoken with the father of the 10-year-old, and he tells me he's been in close contact with Franklin's police chief almost every day, hoping that this case is solved very soon. Now, the U.S. Marshal Service continues to offer a reward up to $10,000 for information that leads to her arrest.
As summer faded into fall, frustration set in. A 10-year-old boy was dead, and the person accused of killing him was still free. Residents spoke quietly, carefully. Some were angry. Others were afraid. Many were simply exhausted. The U.S. Marshal Service stepped in. A $10,000 reward was announced for information leading to Drayton's arrest. Officials believed she wasn't alone. They suspected help, family, friends, people willing to hide her, knowing what she was wanted for. And with every passing day, the pain deepened. Behind the scenes, the search widened. Investigators expanded beyond Franklin, beyond Virginia, across state lines. Drayton had ties up and down the East Coast. Any city was possible. Any door could hide her. Authorities warned that anyone helping her avoid capture was risking serious charges of their own. But still, nothing. For nearly 10 months, the case sat unresolved. A child's name spoken in vigils, in whispers, in prayers, and somewhere out there, the suspect remained unseen. Then, almost a year after the shooting, the silence broke. U.S. Marshals tracked Drayton to a quiet apartment complex in Boykins, Virginia.
And turning now, we have even more breaking news this midday. New information on the arrest of an aspiring rapper in the death of a child in Franklin. Federal marshals sent us photos of the arrest of Tashawnda Drayton earlier this week. She faces first-degree murder charges after being on the run for 10 months. In a press release, marshals say Drayton was arrested at a home in Southampton County, and a relative is the one who opened the door to authorities, and Drayton ultimately surrendered. So we'll be talking with marshals this afternoon to get a little more details on that, so you can look for that coming up on Wavy News 10 starting at 4.
About 20 miles from Franklin, not across the country, not on the run in plain sight, hidden. Investigators later revealed she had been sheltered by a relative. The arrest was swift, controlled, final. After 10 months, the manhunt was over, but the story wasn't.
Through on a big story in our community, 10 months on the run, and this morning a Franklin woman is behind bars accused of killing a 10-year-old boy.
News 3's Kelsey Jones broke this story yesterday afternoon. Marshals gave you an exclusive interview just moments after that arrest.
Exactly. I spoke with U.S. Marshal leaders just minutes after they arrested Tashawnda Drayton. This woman was a fugitive and was wanted on first-degree murder charges and aggravated malicious wounding. Yesterday, they arrested her in Boykins, Virginia. That's roughly 20 miles away from Franklin, where police say she shot 10-year-old Lamar Holden. Franklin police say 4 people, including Drayton, showed up at a man's house. An argument happened, and they say it ended with Drayton pulling a gun. This 10-year-old boy that you see on your screen, he died by those bullets. This is the moment Robert Bowers with the U.S. Marshals Service and his team arrested Tashawnda Drayton, who is known by her stage name, 23 Brazy. Marshals arrested her at Brookside Square Apartments, where Bowers tells me one of Drayton's family members was hiding her. You can see Drayton in handcuffs, and following her arrest, I spoke exclusively with the lead investigator.
Her family member came out, and then I heard Drayton's voice from the top of the stairs saying she was coming out, and she came down the stairs and surrendered.
Did it take a lot of manpower to capture her?
It did. This was the result of several agencies working together. When we spoke last time, I told you the Marshals Service wouldn't rest until Tashawnda Drayton was in custody, and we meant it.
Franklin Police Chief sent me this statement saying this arrest is the result of the commitment and dedication of the U.S. Marshals. We are truly indebted to them for their service. And this morning, it is still unclear if the relative marshals say was hiding Drayton will be charged. They tell me that's up to the Commonwealth's attorney. But Bauer says charges could be harboring a fugitive or aiding and abetting a fugitive. I did put in a request to speak with Drayton from jail. I'm still waiting to hear back from her. Be sure to stay with News 3 as we follow through on this story.
Also tonight, a suspect in the shooting of a child who's been on the run for months until now.
That ended today when U.S. Marshals locked up an aspiring rapper. Police arrested Tashawnda Drayton in Southampton County. She's charged in the death of Lamar J. Holden back in August. 10 on your sides, Andy Fox is live with this tonight. Andy?
Yeah, she is locked up here at the Western Tidewater Regional Jail. She is in there without bond. She refused to do any type of an interview. We would have asked her questions like, who was the intended target of the shooting? Where have you been? Most importantly, who has known where you have been? Word came early. Tashawnda Drayton in custody. Franklin Police Chief Steve Patterson.
It appears that this morning the U.S. Marshals Service was able to take Ms. Drayton into custody in the town of Boykins, which is located out in Southampton County.
We remember 10 months ago when we found Drayton's mother, Stacy Smith, on the front porch of her home. When you hear that she's a suspect in killing a 10-year-old, what do you think about that?
My daughter's not a killer.
When the shooting went down, Drayton was out of jail on bond for other crimes. We asked Lamar J's grandmother about that.
They shouldn't have never let her out. You know, they shouldn't have never let her out for to do some stuff like she did to my grandson. He only a baby. That's all he was. He wasn't but a baby.
It would appear people may have known where Drayton was. Lamar J's grandfather, Danny Barnes. What do you want to say about the people that were harboring her?
I don't know. I feel sorry for them. Somebody should have turned in.
Lamar J's great aunt, Joanne Mason.
If it was family that was harboring her, I can understand you not wanting to give her up. Love made you do that. But it wasn't gonna last. Because you have looked at enough TV shows, you have read about other people enough to know that it wasn't gonna last. In the end, you'll always get caught. So why not just let her face the music?
We are still awaiting an update from the U.S. Marshals Service. We are also very interested in finding out down the road if any other charges could be filed.
In early 2025, Drayton stood before the court. Gone were the rumors. Gone was the mystery. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder along with multiple related charges tied to the shooting, originally facing more than 90 years behind bars.
And the woman charged with killing a 10-year-old boy in Franklin was sentenced today to 58 years in prison. Tashawnda Drayton pleaded guilty earlier this year to the 2023 shooting death of 10-year-old Lamar Holden. Investigators say Drayton shot Lamarge and a 37-year-old man in an altercation outside the man's house. Drayton went into hiding after the shooting and was arrested by U.S. Marshals last year.
Portions of her sentence were suspended. Her final punishment, 58 years in prison. For the Holden family, the number didn't bring relief. It brought closure of a kind. Outside the courthouse, emotions boiled over. Grief collided with regret. Anger met apology. Drayton's family spoke of remorse, of accountability, of fear that drove her into hiding. Nothing could undo what happened. Lamarge Holden was 10 years old, a child who never got the chance to grow up, to grow old, to become anything beyond a memory. The man who survived the shooting lived with scars, visible and invisible. And Drayton would spend the rest of her life paying for a moment that spiraled out of control. Franklin would move on. Streets would quiet. New days would come. But for those who knew Lamarge, time stopped on August 9th, 2023. This case ended with a sentence, with a conviction, with a cell door closing. But the question remains, how quickly anger turns fatal, how easily violence reaches the innocent, and how long justice can take, even when the truth is known. For Franklin, the echoes of that afternoon still linger, because some stories don't fade, they wait quietly until they're finally told. Alright y'all, there y'all have it, man. That's the sad story of the 10-year-old Virginia boy being shot in the head and killed by a female rapper. Hey man, get in that comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Drillers and trappers, we outside trapping and drilling 247. Don't go nowhere. Watch that next video. Get